Yeah, he decided to cut
I love it.
it wasn't just a simple one either.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's okay, guys. Come on, you got this.
Wayne, are you there? Test, test. Test, test, test.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming. Jeff, I will hand this off to you.
Okay, it looks like we only have 3 people on so far. Should we wait for more or should we just get started?
I will leave that in your ball court. If you want to wait another 5 minutes, I'm happy to do so.
Yeah, how many people are we supposed to have in attendance?
13.
13. So Josh, Petra, Sydney, if you don't mind, let's just give it a couple more minutes, see if we can get some other people logging on. There may be some technical difficulties. And hey, Wayne, if you don't mind, while we're waiting, could you kind of explain if there's anything that they need to do to communicate, and how are we going to do question and answers and stuff like that?
So basically, I'm not sure if you guys have ever used Zoom before, but you'll see that you have a shared video and a shared mic. So at the end of Jeff's seminar, he'll actually say it's question and answer time. So if you have any questions, just unmute your mic, say your first name first, and then ask your question.
Okay, good. I got that. That sounds good to me. So let's just give it a few more minutes, because if we've got 16 people, then maybe we should just give it a few, because I don't want to have to go over too much more of this a second time, and I'd hate people to miss out on some of the beginning stuff.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. All right, so let's wait. Let's wait for 5 minutes, and then we'll kick off from there.
Okay, guys, 5 more minutes. Sorry for the wait. Hopefully I can make it worth your while. I will I'm going to turn my mic on in 5 minutes and we'll get started. Okay, guys. I am on live video now. Hopefully everybody can see me and hear me well. We're going to go ahead and get started. And as I see people pop in, I will try to admit them. You'll have to excuse me. I'm a little unfamiliar with this platform. This is the very first time I've used it, but it looks fairly user-friendly. And my good friend Wayne is waiting in the background should we have any technical issues. If you guys want to hit your video feeds, feel free. You know, if I can see you guys in the background, that's cool. If you need to ask a question as we're going along in the program, don't hesitate to ask right away. Okay, so before we get started, let's just go ahead and test the audio on this. Can everybody hear me okay? If you can, just give me a quick yes.
I can.
You can hear me?
That's a yes from me.
Okay, good. Anybody else? Everybody else can hear me okay?
That's a yes from me.
All right, good. Josh, fantastic.
Yes, from me.
Oh, Petra, fantastic. Welcome. Okay, well, I'm going to assume everybody else can hear me okay.
Yeah, Jeff, I know a few of the participants that are on don't have mics, so they may not be able to answer.
What did you say?
A few of the participants that are logged in that I know don't have microphones, so they may not be able to answer.
Gotcha, okay. I set up the chat here too, so the chat is open for anybody who wants to text a question, feel free. If you want to use your microphone to ask a question, just you know, go ahead and feel free at any time. Hopefully we don't have too many going at any one given moment. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Jeff Shettler. I'm from Georgia Canine National Training Center, located in Georgia, South Carolina, and slowly but surely we're opening up different parts of our company in different places around the world. Hopefully you guys have all had a chance to take a look at some of the videos that we're going to be presenting today on the puppy imprinting, which is the class that we're doing. If you've had a chance to preview those, that's absolutely fantastic. You'll be one up on the presentation. So a little background about me. I was a police canine handler back in my early life. I retired as a canine handler. Then I went on to form this company, and it's been in business now for about 10 years. My background primarily is nothing more than trailing and tracking dogs, detection dogs, human remains, and narcotics and explosives. That's about the extent of it. I've stayed extremely focused in the trailing and tracking, and that's my primary specialty. I was attached to the FBI's hostage rescue team for a short time as a high-risk fugitive manhunt specialist, and I worked cases from them from about 1997 till 2001. Before we get started, I'll give you a little bit of background on where I'm at right now. I'm actually stuck in lockdown in Subic Bay, Philippines, on the island of Luzon. I was actually doing some work out here when the whole COVID-19 drama hit, and then you know, right in the middle of all of that, all the airports pretty much shut down, and the entire country of the Philippines went into complete lockdown. And I've now been in here in lockdown for 41 total days. Cool thing is hopefully I get to leave here next Monday. I've got a plane ticket. Hopefully I get a chance to use it, go back to the States. I need to get back to work. This lockdown's been tough, but I haven't been exactly too lazy, doing a lot of canine work on the computer. And then also, we've been trying to help a lot of the local people here. I don't know if many of you are familiar with the Philippines, but the Philippines is an incredibly poor country. There is a very, very high, low class of people. financially speaking, some of the most beautiful, wonderful people on the planet, but things are very, very difficult, even when conditions are good. Come COVID-19 and a quarantine, and literally you start having starving people. So what my fiance and I did, well, pretty much right when we got here, is we started to provide food and necessary items to some of the families in the area. And this quickly morphed into an entire relief fund that's being funded by a lot of friends and family, all around the world. And to date, we fed roughly 700 people with relief baskets. So, relief for just normal families, but we're also concentrating on children, the elderly, and the disabled. Just in our barangay alone, we have 5,000 people. There's a lot more throughout this area. So hopefully this COVID-19 thing ends relatively soon. I know it's been completely serious, but at the same time, it could have been a hell of a lot worse. And I think we're on the way to a global mend, and hopefully everybody can get back to work and to their careers and to their families very soon. Well, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. What I want to do is talk a little bit about what trailing and tracking are and what really the differences might be. To begin with, oftentimes tracking is considered the footstep to footstep method of a canine following scent from the beginning of the track to wherever the source might be. And with tracking, generally speaking, the aficionados of tracking have a tendency to want to make sure that the dog stays literally right where that person walked. And there's a lot of control and a lot of countermeasures that are taken to try to keep that dog working exactly where the person stepped. Trailing, on the other hand, is completely the opposite. In trailing, generally speaking, it's recognized that there are multiple sources of odor that the dogs are following of the subject. Now, what are those multiple sources of odor? Number one, based on the traditional tracking methodology, we're working off primarily what we call ground disturbance. Ground disturbance is nothing more than when the subject walks on a surface and changes the scent structure of that surface. It could be a green vegetative state, it could be dirt, whatever it is. As soon as you walk on something, you change that scent picture. This is something that the dogs can follow. But there's also other types of odor as well. There's sloughing skin cells, and the human body sloughs thousands of skin cells per second or per minute. And this sloughing off of the skin cells is exacerbated by emotion and also by exertion. So the more emotional you are, the more you exert yourself. Let's say, for example, running from the police, you'll have a tendency to dump a lot more odor. Now, these skin cells are microscopic and they have a tendency to kind of just blow with the wind. They don't necessarily drop right to where the person was stepping. They will move. The third type of odor is in the form of air scent, or it's a gaseous plume of odor that's constantly coming off the body. And I think everybody's smelled this at one time or another, because some people may be a little bit more odoriferous than others. But the dogs detect everybody, whether they're smelly or not. That air scent is extremely important for the dogs. So this is the third type of odor. The next type of odor is something that is also very important. This is what we call contact odor. Contact odor is nothing more than we take a portion of our body and we touch an object. When we touch the object, we not only put skin cells on the object, but we also put oils or anything else that we might have on our body. For example, if I take my hand and put it in my pocket, and inside my pocket, I've put many different items such as coins or cash that have come from different places, my pocket is a proverbial source of a bunch of different odors, perhaps from other people. And so my hand is now contaminated with other types of odor as well, aside from my own. So why is this important to understand? Well, in our method or our style of work in tracking or trailing, we like to use all odor sources for the dog to be able to follow. And we recognize that the dog seamlessly transition from these odors, 1, 2, 3, and 4, with little to no preamble and with absolutely no help. They just do this automatically. They don't need to stay with one particular type to get to source. They can use all of them or 1 or 2 of them. It really is based on the conditions that the dog's given at the moment. And this is something that's important to understand, because when we're hunting people, whether it's a missing person or a suspect of a crime, time is of the essence. We need to get this person as quickly as possible. And we need to allow the dog to use all of its senses to find that person. I don't care how the dog does it. He could have ESP, extrasensory perception. And if this is how we find people, then I'm good with it. I don't really care. The most important thing is making the find. It's not the style, it's not the method. Okay, so with our system, the GA Canine philosophy, it is a system of no systems. It's a style of no style. It's an art of no art. And what I mean by that is, what we want to do is take pieces of everything to allow the dog to hunt people in the way it wants to hunt. Okay, we don't insist that the dog works in any particular fashion. As a matter of fact, one of the things that's important to understand is that every single dog, regardless of breed, of sex or age, works a little bit different than the other dog. And the mannerisms, the body language, and the body language is how we read the dogs, is different amongst every dog. Now, we may have some similarities, okay? And you are definitely going to have some similarities. But one of the things that's incredibly important to understand is that there's individual characteristics and traits with every single dog, and you have to learn those individual traits in order to work your dog properly. If you want the maximum amount of success, don't look for something that's an average behavior. Look for specific behaviors in the individual dog. So with our GA canine style, one of the things that we're always trying to do is look at it from the dog that we're working with's perspective. We don't take a style or a method and force this to the dog. That's like taking a square peg and trying to force it into a round hole. With our style, what we're doing is we're looking at, what does the dog need to work? What are the motivators that makes it work? What are the drives that the dog are using to work? And then we apply a system where we're using self-discovery, productive sources, and tiered training to get the most out of the dog. And I'm going to talk about those 3 things a little bit more as we're going over the video. Okay, so it looks like we've had a few other people join us. I'm not sure if we have everybody. Let's see. I'm going to go over the chat real quick, just make sure I'm missing anything. Okay. Mandy, are you having any? Mandy, are you back up? Looks like you are. Okay, looks like you are. Yep, excellent. Okay, so if we don't have anything pressing that I have to attend to, then what I'll do is I'm going to get right into the video, to the meat of the subject. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay, guys, so the first thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about what do we do when we have a young puppy and we're looking at getting them started in trailing and tracking. Well, one of the first things that we're going to do is we're going to look at the drivers of the dog to see what makes its boat float. So, and what I mean by that is we want to make sure that whatever our reward system that we have is appropriate for the puppy or the dog that we're dealing with. Understanding that not every dog and every puppy will like the same thing. And so generally speaking, the first thing I like to do is to test what the puppy likes the most. So I'm going to bring out some toys. I'll bring out a ball, I'll bring out a tug, I'll bring out a Kong. I'll also bring out different types of food. You know, I'll bring some typical puppy snacks, maybe some kibble, but a couple of my favorites, and this is what I call doggy crack, is sardines and tuna fish. Sardines and tuna fish are two of probably the most motivating types of food sources I've ever used for dogs, to include adult dogs. You know, I've just had them go absolutely nuts for both. You know, I've given classes before where we've talked about, you know, the different types of motivators, and I've had students insist that their dogs will only take a toy like a Kong or a ball, and that they absolutely hate food. And as soon as we bring out the cracked tuna fish, everything changes, and the crack is the major dynamic product that the dogs want first and foremost. So I highly recommend that if this is something that you're going to get into, that you break out the doggy crack, and that's the sardines or the tuna fish. Really good stuff. So let's go ahead and get into this first video. I'm going to show you a little bit about how we're testing young Raz. Okay, so the first thing that he's getting on is the tug. He's got good interest. He's got good retention. But he doesn't really like the other things. The tug was interesting, but it wasn't huge. So now we're breaking out the different types of food. All right, so one of the first things that we're going to do is, once we've decided what the puppy likes the most, and in this case, it was definitely the tuna fish and the food, we're going to start with what we call fire trails, okay? I'm going to go in and explain a little bit about what a fire trail is. A fire trail is nothing more than when the puppy sees the subject or the person that you're looking for run off for a short distance, get out of sight, and when they're running, they're taking that reward system with them. They're also leaving what we call a scent article behind. The scent article is important because later on with our system, it's something that we use to start the track for the dog. And it's something we want them to be able to look for in a crime scene later on. So the scent article is something really, really crucial. Now, one of the things that happens a lot of times with the young puppies is the creation of what we call the mommy bubble. The mommy bubble is the distance the puppy does not want to get out of when we're starting this game. And generally speaking, when they're babies, 6 weeks until sometimes 9 or 10 weeks, that mommy bubble can be relatively close to the handler. They don't want to go too far away from it. And so when we're doing Raz, we're working Raz on these puppy fire trails, you're going to see that mommy bubble appear in the beginning, and then through the course of a couple sessions begin to go away. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So Raz was just started with his first runaway, and you can see that the mommy bubble is in full effect. He's going to explore a little bit, but he doesn't really want to go too far. Okay, guys, so this was one of the first trails that we did with Raz. You didn't get to see how we set it up or exactly how it was run. But what I was really wanting to show you was this mommy bubble and how the puppy kind of had a problem escaping from it in the beginning. And I wanted you to kind of see in the end where there was a lot of praise, a lot of fun, and the puppy's, of course, getting his food. Let's go on to the next one. A little shameless marketing. Okay, so the puppy actually just winded the subject, and you can tell by its behavior, it just kicked in. And this was an air scent. Okay, guys, let's talk a little bit about it. Okay, so in the beginning, you know, the first trail that we had on day one, the puppy did not really want to leave the handler at all. That mommy bubble was about 10 meters, 5 to 10 meters. And, you know, once the puppy got past that, he came back. The first trail on the second day was a little bit more of a distance, so about 15 or 20 meters, but then the puppy came back again. By the time we got to the third and the fourth trail, the distance really was quite a bit longer, and the puppy really wasn't paying attention to where the handler or the owner was at, and just stayed hunting the entire time and engaged. Now, one of the things that's incredibly important to understand is that it doesn't matter how the puppy works, okay? We're not demanding anything. I don't care if they're following ground scent. I don't care if they're just running around in circles. I don't care if they're using air scent. It doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is that they run around, they make mistakes, and that when they find the person, they learn something from it, okay? And generally speaking, they learn best through making the mistakes. What we want to do is we want to put them in an environment that they can learn in. And so one of the most crucial things to do is start your trails in a place that's relatively clean when it comes to human and dog type distractions. So we want to go to a place where there's not other people, not other dogs. I don't care about other types of animals and wildlife so much, but that human odor and that dog odor, we need to completely stay away from. I like to have what we call good productive source. And what productive source is places that hold a lot of odor. Now I'm going to go back to this video. And I'm going to show you a couple things that are important to understand. So this type of area right here is excellent productive source. Now the reason it is excellent is multiple reasons. Number one, it's relatively green. Green vegetation has a tendency to be much more pungent and odoriferous when the dogs are working. And so that ground disturbance really plays into effect here. It's something that the dogs love to use. So green grass is good. Taller green grass and taller bushes are even better, because with that taller green grass and those taller bushes, we get contact odor with the subject. So as the person is running in and amongst these weeds and grasses, their legs are coming in contact with them and adding odor, depositing odor on these things. And that also is very good for the dog. Lastly, because we have taller vegetation, the scent picture, or the skin cells that are coming off the body, and the gases, the air scent coming off the body, have a tendency to be more confined in a narrow location, thereby giving the dog a better chance to follow odor. So in the beginning, we need to stay in very good productive source. Taller material, something that the puppy, of course, can work in. It can't be too tall. Something that holds odor really well. This is super important. Okay, so we're on day 2. Let's go ahead and go over to day 3. Actually, we're going to go bump up right to day 5. Little shameless marketing. Okay, so one of the things that we're going to do right now is we're going to add a set article to the trail. In the beginning, it was just the person running away with the food. And what the dog is learning is that, hey, this guy is about to take off. I'm excited because my handler's holding him back, and he has something I really want, the tuna fish or whatever it might be. And as soon as that guy runs, it's going to throw the puppy into prey drive and really kick in his hunting instincts. And that's what we're doing with this maneuver. Now, you're going to see some of the ways to get the puppy targeted on the center article. Some of them are good and some of them are not so good. Okay, so I want to clarify a little bit about this. And one of the reasons why this video is super important is I wanted to show the wrong way to present that scent article. This is the wrong way. We don't want to put the scent article into the face of the puppy so he knows exactly what it is. And we definitely don't want to agitate a Malinois or German Shepherd, a Dutch Shepherd with something like this, because he's going to be so interested in the article, he's just going to want to chew and play with it. And you're going to see how that becomes a little problematic a little bit later. So what we want to do is we want to tease the puppy with the food reward, step away from the puppy, maybe about 10 feet, show them the scent article from a distance, and then casually drop it so they see where it lands. And then the trail layer takes off. The other thing I want to talk about is the puppy. It's really important that the puppy can't see where the trail layer ran to. We need something that can block his vision, a tree, bushes, it really doesn't matter. He only sees the trail layer as the trail layer is showing him the food and then the scent article from a distance. Okay, so the other thing I want to talk a little bit about is the total reward. The total package is not just the food or the toy. It's also your praise and your enjoyment. You actually have to really love what you're doing with that puppy, and it has to, be expressed well. So at the end of the track, when the puppy finds source and is being rewarded, it's really important that you have a lot of fun with the puppy. Play with them, give them the food, get in there, get your girly voice on, be happy. The happier you are, the happier the dog will be. And if the dog is very happy, he's going to do this job a lot better. Joy is absolutely crucial. It's not the system, it's not the reward. It's the fun that the puppy has doing the job that really makes them do it well. You have to remember that. So if you're having fun and you express yourself well with your puppy, the puppy's always going to work better. Remember that, don't forget it. Okay, so we're going on to the next track here. And again, the trail layer does it wrong. We're gonna have to correct a little bit later, but what he's doing is he's presenting the scent article, teasing the dog with it, and then showing and then running away. The only thing that we're doing is teaching the dog to play with this article, and that's not what we want him to do. Okay, a little bit more shameless marketing. Bear with me, guys. I want to. Okay, guys. So we actually had, some pretty good progress in a relatively short period of time, going from day 1 to day 5. We went from a puppy that's only going a few meters away and really having some trouble to a puppy that's super, super motivated and just absolutely nailing the tracks. So let's go ahead and go to next one, day 9. Okay, so one of the things I want to clarify just a little bit is that one day where the trail layer was taking the article and flashing it in front of the puppy's face, the scent article. It got the puppy so excited about the scent article that he felt that he needed to start grabbing it and taking it with him or playing with it. It kind of created a monster, and it's one of the reasons why you do not want to take the article and put it in front of the puppy's face. Okay, what you want to do is put the food in front of their face, step away, and show the article from a distance, and then drop it. If that happens, it's not as important as that food was. He's not going to be agitated by it. He's not going to be so inclined to want to grab it and run. The other thing that we have to think about is if he does pick it up and he does take it with him, don't respond to it. Okay, don't chase him, don't yell at him, and by all means, do not try to take it out of his mouth. If you grab it from him, he's going to forget about the trail, he's going to forget about his subject, and he's only going to want to play tug of war. And then you've really created a monster. If he wants to take it, let him take it. If he doesn't drop it and he doesn't go to work and he just sits here and farts around with the article, then we'll stop and do it again. Let's do it with an article he doesn't want to pick up, like a brick. He won't pick up the brick. He might do this, but he won't pick up a brick. Okay, super important. Let's continue on with the video. Okay, guys, I want to talk a little bit about this next transition moment and the reasons why we're doing it. What we started with was what was called a fire trail. And with the fire trail, we're doing a couple things. Number one, imprinting that my target is running away. That's exciting. And my prey drive is jumping way up. Number two, he has something I really want, the tuna fish or the ball or whatever it might be. And then number three, when I find the guy, I get all kinds of loving and good reward. It's really, really super fun. And the only thing I want to do is do it again. Okay. And what we'd want to do is with the puppy is do enough series that we can get to the point where he's doing maybe 75 to 100 yards, relatively easy with no problem. And he's getting it done in just a few seconds. And it doesn't matter how he does it. If he's running all over the place or straight to the guy, it really doesn't matter. He's going to learn how to use his nose as long as we use the right productive source and we're not working in a big open field with no, vegetation of any type. If you use a good productive source in a good area, he's going to learn how to use his nose. Now, part of the problem is that with the fire trails that we're doing, it's a lot of air scent because the scent hasn't had a chance to settle. If your set time is less than 30 seconds, most of the odor is up in the air and drifting, and that's what the dog uses to get to source. And they learn to do nothing but air scent. So we have to do the next step. Now, this next step is what we call a modified fire trail. It allows for the odor to start to settle onto the ground to create a better condition for the dog to actually follow ground odor. I don't care what they use to get to source, ground odor, air scent, it doesn't matter, because in real life, they're going to go back and forth all the time. But we need to get them exposed to ground odor as well, and this is how we do it. The other thing that the modified fire trail does is it teaches the dog that the scent article is the trigger to start the track, okay? That when they encounter the scent article, that's the start of the track. The problem is that when we move right from fire trail to a situation where the trail layer is already gone and the dog had no stimuli of the trail layer running away, sometimes they don't know what to do. So this modified fire trail will help a lot, okay? Because the trail layer runs away, stimulates the dog, you walk the dog away a short distance, he's still thinking about the person running away, and then when you bring him back to the start point, he's geared up and ready to go. Okay, so let's get on to the next video. Our set time has now increased a couple minutes. So I'm fast forwarding a little bit so you don't have to sit there and wait for the whole thing. Okay, guys. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the equipment factor and what we're doing here. You'll notice in the beginning when we first started this, the puppy was just running free with really nothing on other than the collar. And this is what I want to have happen. Why do I do it that way? Well, dogs are not evolved to wear equipment in tracking. You know, tracking is the most instinctual thing a dog can do when we're talking about all the different types of work for dogs. Tracking is the really number one thing that's 100% instinctual that's not socially instilled into them by us. They already know how to do it. They know how to track. They're born with that ability at 2 weeks of age, even before their eyes are open. They're following odor. This is something they're born with. We can't teach them to do it. But we can really screw it up easily if we put equipment on too soon. Equipment has a tendency to aggravate the dog a little bit. They don't like it. And one of the reasons why I don't put a leash on the dog, in particular hanging onto that leash, is it creates too much of this push me, pull you, this jerking on the dog's leash. When this happens, it's a bunch of micro corrections for the dog. And with a young puppy, it can be so demotivating that they just don't do the job very well. So in the beginning, we're running everything off leash, let the dog do whatever the hell he wants to do as fast as he wants to do it. So we build up motivation and drive for the track. You know, they end up doing it so fast and so hard because nothing is holding them back. We are the biggest problem, the biggest impediment to the dog in the act of tracking and trailing. We create the problem with the leash and the equipment. So in the beginning, there is no leash and there is no equipment. I don't want to put on anything on the puppy until we've imprinted them for, I don't know, at least 10 or 12 sessions. And the first thing that I put on them is just going to be the harness. Wearing the harness alone, just so they get used to wearing it during the trail. They get used to the feel of something on them. The next thing I add is a short leash, maybe 2 meters, without a loop on the end, without the handle, just a straight piece of lead or leather. I don't want it caught on anything. So they get used to some weight dragging behind them. This 6 foot or this 2 meter lead is going to eventually turn into a 10 meter lead or a 30-foot lead, but it has to start small. We don't want to impede the puppy in his action too much too soon because that can be demotivating. Let's go to the next video. And one of the things I want you guys to keep in mind is think about how many sessions that we've had with this puppy. This is session number 2, day 10. He's only had 10 days of training, and he's already running some tracks that are pretty extensive for a young dog. And that's going to change dramatically even more over the next few sessions. Right now we're on, I think, week number, or session, or training day number 21, and he is a rock star. He's out to about 300 yards with multiple turns and doing really, really well. I'm going to go ahead and fast forward. Okay, let's talk a little bit about this. So you know, the big issue, that one single training day where the trail layer teased the dog with the scent article right in front of his nose, created a little bit of a monster, in that most of the trails after that, the puppy just wanted to play with the article. He'd still go to work, but he played with it. And in this situation, it caused him to go off the track so far that he couldn't get back into odor, had no way to find it. And it got to the point where we almost had to quit. Right when he started getting the most distracted, the wind shifted, you could see by his body language, he got an air scent, and he was able to solve it at that point. But the scent article is really a big issue. You know, now the other thing I want to talk a little bit about too is your emotional state when you're working with your puppy. Don't wear your emotions on your sleeve, and try not to have any expectations whatsoever. If you have expectations, you're going to be disappointed, because you always want your puppy to do better than he probably actually is. You know, we have this tendency sometimes to throw too much on puppies when we're training. You know, be realistic. And to be realistic means with a young dog this age, 8-9 weeks of age, you can have zero expectations. Just go out there and have fun, okay? Enjoy the moment. Let him do his thing. If you get frustrated with him, you know, in other words, he does something you don't like, you start sighing, you start cussing, you start just getting a little bit upset about what he's doing, he's going to hear it, number one. And then number two, he's going to smell your frustration on your own scent. You can't mask your scent. Everything you do manifests itself in odor. So if you're frustrated or angry with something the puppy does, it's going to exude in your scent. He's going to detect it. He's going to know you're not happy, which is going to up the ante and the frustration level for him and actually cause him to get more distracted. So what we want to do when we go into trailing is go into a situation where we just really don't care what the results are going to be. Don't worry about it. It's going to go whatever way it's going to go. And the less you expect things from the puppy, the better he's actually going to do. So go into it in a state of no mind. Let's go on to the next video. Okay, guys. Okay, so what I want you guys to keep in mind here is this is day 11. Think about day 1 and how far that puppy went, less than 20 or 30 feet. And now he's going 200, 300, 400 yards. This is 10 days, 11 days worth of work, and look what you're getting. Now, we're on day 21 with Raz, and his progress is absolutely amazing. Our set time is now up to 10 and 15 minutes, and we're about to the point where we're going to start picking up the leash and holding it when we're behind him. Right now, at this stage of the game at day 11, we're using a 6-foot, 2-meter leash, so there's just a little bit of weight bouncing behind him. But then we're going to bump up to a 10-meter and a 15-meter, and then eventually up to, 10 or 15 foot, and then eventually all the way up to a 30 foot. I'm not going to go over the rest of the videos here. They're on this playlist. I encourage you guys to take a look at them, mainly because we're going to start running out of time here really quick, and I have to actually start entertaining some of your questions. So without further ado, let's go right to that. Okay. So if you guys have some questions, go ahead and just unmute yourself if you'd like, and let's go ahead and address some of the questions. You can also text if you prefer to do that. I have the chat board up here on the right. Any questions from anybody? Is anybody still there, or did I bore everybody to tears?
Hello.
Yeah, Johnny, go ahead.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, good. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, I started doing the tracking the same way that you taught when you were last down under, and I'm working with a adolescent 15-month-old dog that has no training before, but he's got really high drive, and that tuna crack stuff works an absolute treat. One of the things that I found was that with that center article dropping, if I gave a command and I paired it with a command from the very beginning that the dog didn't necessarily know, that as soon as I came across any article or an area where my trailer or trail layer was last at, that they would automatically, after 4 sessions or so, start tracking straight away. Is that possible to do that with the puppy to stop it from having that issue of playing with that scent article? Is that it's the mind frame?
It could, but really what triggered the play was that one single day where he was agitated by the trail layer with it. And it's really common to happen. And then some puppies want to do it anyway. I think the command definitely is something we want to introduce early on with their work, because ultimately speaking, what we need the puppy to do or the dog to do on a real search is to find our track. And on a real case, we want them to find a start point. And this could be contact odor, let's say, for example, a door handle, a window seal, a cigarette butt that's on the ground, something like that. And so the command is super, super crucial. It might help get the puppy off playing with the article, and it might not. It just really depends on the individual puppy, really.
Cool, thanks for that. And before anybody else, just wanted to ask, I did see one of your videos, and I'll have a look at it there, is about the dog eliminating. Which is one problem that I'm having at the moment, is my dog will stop and I will see that he will take a leak where other dogs have taken a leak, but it doesn't necessarily distract him from the track. It just slows him down. I haven't been correcting it, but I have an urge to.
Yeah. You got to kind of walk a fine line with it in the beginning, but if it looks like it's marking, in other words, he has to go off the track to check where another dog peed. With the older dogs, you got to start correcting on that. And you can see the change of behavior. So in other words, they're tracking along, they're doing really good. You've got body language that you can articulate that says he's on the track, and then suddenly it changes and he comes off the track and goes a new direction. As soon as you start seeing behavior that he's on that other odor of that dog, give him a good verbal correction. No, leave it, get to work. And the reason why this is important is that the marking can become chronic with the dogs. It gets to the point where they track as much as they get distracted. And sometimes the distraction can get so bad that they'll literally leave the subject, who could be very close by, to go chuck dog pee, and we don't want that to happen. So you set up a situation where you actually teach the dog to avoid these distractions by command. Just like you're talking about your command to start the track, we also use a command to stay off the distractions. And I have a whole separate training regimen just to stop the distractions. There's a chapter in my book, Canine Trailing the Straightest Path, that shows you diagrams and gives you a description on how to do that. But we also do some online webinars for distraction training only. I actually just did one a couple days ago in the UK. So maybe this is something that we can do here. We'll go over some videos of the distractions, how they happen, and then how we can correct the dog effectively.
Oh, awesome. Thanks for that. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man, Johnny, thanks for coming. Any other questions?
G'day, Jeff.
Jason.
Jackson, I met you I was in Australia too. I met you at Canberra. Just a quick question.
Yeah.
How long before you would move on to like different surfaces with a young dog? You know, I know you've got pretty lush sort of ground there. How long before you'd expose what sort of time frame with a pup? Sort of your harder surfaces, your bitumen, your concrete, stuff like that.
Yeah, it just depends on the dog. Every dog's different. I have some puppies that I can get on surface changes within, 3 or 4 weeks, older dogs even sooner. But then I have some dogs that are just so hard-headed. They're so, I don't know, ADD sometimes, that you just have to stay with the easy stuff until they're completely committed to it. So I don't like putting a time frame on it. I really base it on the dog's behavior and how well they're doing. Now, Raz here, if you go by these videos, he's a good example of a dog that we can actually start jumping into those surface changes here relatively soon. He's in day 21 right now. And I would say by the time he's on day 30 or training day 30, we can start doing some minor surface changes. Those surface changes that I like to do are gravel and dirt and just lowering the productive source. Instead of that tall, lush grass, we'll make it a lot shallower. Instead of a lot of brush, we'll open it up into more open areas. But we want to make those surface changes relatively easy in the beginning, and then we bump up the difficulty level over time. Does that help answer your question, Jason?
Yeah, definitely. Because I've seen a few adult dogs they nearly default, don't they, to they want to only search on what they know, sort of thing. You know what I mean? If you haven't.
Yep. Yeah. You really want to take your time. I mean, baby steps, baby steps, baby steps, with these dogs. Less is more in dog training. Ideally speaking, to get a really great manhunter, a dog that's absolutely amazing, is months worth of work. I mean, I can build a foundation in a dog in about 5 weeks with multiple surfaces and scent discrimination. But that killer manhunter that is just really unstoppable usually takes anywhere from 6 months to a year.
No problem. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming. Any other
Jeff,
questions?
Wayne?
Yeah, go ahead, Wayne.
So when you were at the Australian conference last year, we worked with the little puppies by the name of Zeus. So
yeah, he's
doing really well. Yeah, he's doing really well now. He's ground and air scenting, and I can get him up to about 25 acres now before he finds the individual. His brother doesn't like to ground scent. He lifts his head a lot.
Yeah.
Any ideas?
Yeah, well, sometimes they can ground scent with the head up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So he
Yeah.
could be
And
ground
so
scenting.
you
I'm
have,
just not picking it up.
yeah, there's a lot, the Malinois Dutch Shepherds all have a tendency to not like sticking that nose low to the ground. They've been bred over generations to be very visual, and they like to use their nose at the same time they use their eyes. So what you have to learn is to read the subtle behavior that he's in odor, on ground odor, even when his head is up. Okay, it's hard to describe
Right.
what that might be because every little dog is a little bit different.
Well, now that you say that, I think I might have noticed it before, but I've never really paid attention. So he lowers his
Mhm.
head so it's like a straight line with his back all the way down.
Yeah.
But that might be as low as he's going to get his head. So I think I've seen that before, and I really never took any notice of it.
Mm-hmm. Then just be good with it. One of the things to consider, in Australia, you don't have them, but you do have dingoes. I've never watched a dingo track, but in the United States, we have wolves and coyotes. And I used to actually own wolves, and I used to hunt coyotes tremendously. And I had a lot of time to watch how they hunt and how they track. Coyotes and wolves rarely track with their nose to the ground. Very, very rarely. Most of the time, it's just below shoulder level, and then it goes up, and then it goes down, then it goes up, but very rarely is it all the way down. Why is that? Well, it's because all the other senses are important for hunting, eyes and ears. They have to use those things to find what they're looking for. And in our system, our style, all of the senses that the dog has for hunting are utilized. We're not going to force them to a particular style of work. So if they don't want to stick their nose on the ground, but they're still following odor, I'm good with it.
Thanks for that. Appreciate it.
Yeah, brother. Any other questions? Any other questions? No. Going once? Going twice? Oh, wait, hold on. I got a question to everyone. I'm considering getting a Czech wolf dog for SAR training. Would that mix back to the wolf be a good advantage tracking wise? Could be. It really depends on how much wolf is in the dog. I actually owned a pure wolf and then a wolf hybrid back in the 80s. And this is where I first started to develop some of the philosophies I actually have now, was because of that work with those dogs. The full wolf was an absolute basket case that I couldn't get to work for me for really anything. Now, she tracked well, but the problem was she just tracked whatever the hell she wanted to track. The cross, on the other hand, was a little bit better. So, the thing is that if you're going to get a mixed wolf dog, you have to make sure that you have one that wants to work for humans and has that bond. The problem with a lot of wolf hybrids is sometimes that bond doesn't exist very well. So I think before I bought one, I would go and test the puppies with some drive tests, retention tests, willingness to please, how forgiving are they? There's a whole series of tests that you could do before you made that purchase. That's actually a really good question, Johnny. Anybody else? No? All right, guys. Well, we are an hour and 45 minutes into our program, and I think it was really great. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I love this platform, by the way, Wayne. Thanks so much for introducing me to it, and more importantly, for hosting the event.
That's okay.
If you guys would like to do another one, I'd be more than happy to do it. I think we can do a progression from this, maybe distraction training, hard surface, scent discrimination, whatever you can think of. But without further ado, I will turn this over to Wayne. Wayne, thanks so much.
Thanks, Jeff. Much appreciated. And yeah, definitely we'll look at doing another one. hope you guys enjoyed it. Looks like we'll have Jeff out again next year, so at the Canine Conference. So, you'll be able to pick his brain, and he doesn't mind to have a sit down and have a scotch with people. So,
Oh no, that's good stuff.
I will leave it here and thank everyone for coming, and hope you have a great night.
Talk to you guys later. Thanks so much.